Hey YouTube, this is New York Half-Ass Prepper here. Today we're taking a look at the Smith Wesson Model 10-6. This is a K-frame 38 special 6-shot revolver made by Smith & Wesson. I don't have the exact dates for you, but it's something ridiculous like 1899 up until I think they even make something similar to this now. They probably made more of this revolver than any other revolver. And like I mentioned, it's a K frame. The -6 denotes it's got the contour heavy barrel. Whenever you hear the dash something, it just means it was an engineering change that they made. Like they countersunk the cylinders in some of them. And some of them weren't even refinements. They were just a cost-saving measure. But they just put a new, instead of a 6, they'd put a 7 after the model number. And you can kind of date them without having the Smith & Wesson standard catalog. You can kind of date them by the dash, roughly. Get a rough time period with them. This one dates back probably to the early 70s, although it has a weird serial number. It's D88143X. I don't want to say the last digit. But the book dates them like 2D, 3D. So I got to look this up, do a little bit more research to see where this was shipped to. It could have been a foreign contract, or it could have been made for a large agency that was using a lot of these or something. It could have been a special run. But this is a really sweet old school revolver. Now this revolver is not the original finish. I had this reblued. I'm going to put a link down below to the guys that did it for me. Jerry and Matt over at East Coast Gun Bluing did the finish for me. Now basically this gun, there's a lot of thought about rebluing old revolvers. Some people say you should do it. Some people say you shouldn't do it. But this gun has really no collector value to ruin by rebluing it, because I picked it up for probably under $200. It was a bucket of rust when I got it. It was all holster wear, beat up, and in fact you could see that the grips are very well worn. This thing probably wore out a few holsters in its day. So I just went and reblued it because it was all rusty, and I want to save this for my kid to shoot. I mean, these things are like forever, these guns. And it's really cool, and they got a really nice smooth action on these things, and they're very, very accurate with this heavy barrel. Makes it very accurate, and the barrel's pinned, typical of revolvers in that time period. So these guys over at East Close, they took basically what was a bucket of rust. I don't have any before pictures of this. I gotta look through. I'll see if I can dig one out. And they made it look like this. I mean, they did a nice job. But this is my model 15-3, which I did make a video on. So you could see the before. You can look at that video and see what it looked like before. And this is what they did afterwards. And it looks like a factory finish. In fact, it looks better than factory. This guy here, this is one of my Model 19s. And that is a factory Smith & Wesson finish. And I'd be damned if I could tell the difference between a rebluing job and the factory finish. So if you have an old revolver and you want to get it reblued, the guys have an FFL over there, and you give them a call, and you can ship it over there and have it reblued, and they're very reasonable on the pricing. And you can actually save yourself some money by disassembling the revolver, and you take your grips and all your pieces off that are not going to be blued, and keep them, and just send them the frame and the cylinder and the pieces that need to be blued, and that'll save you some money, because they charge, time is money. They charge you to disassemble it and reassemble it. So, and it's all, the bluing is all in the preparation, and these guys are meticulous, and they spend tons and tons of time on the buffing wheel. But if you're looking for a great old school home defender, nightstand gun, especially if you have women in the house that can't cock the slide on a semi-automatic, this is an excellent choice. The I keep them around because well, number one, it's cool. It's a very cool old school revolver, but it shoots 38 special. There's probably more variations on the loads on that round than there is on anything else. It's cheap ammunition. You can get it anywhere, and you can get some really good defensive loads. And these old Model 10s will shoot plus P all day long without any issues. And actually, they made this revolver into a 357. They chambered a few of them in 357. The actual 10-6 before they went into the Model 13s. The pre-Model 13s, which was they're stamped 10-6. They put a few of them out that were chambered in 357. So maybe 1957 Shep can school us a little bit more on that transition there. And if you're into collecting, I mean, like I said, this particular example has no collector value really. It's a cheap old, and it was really beat up when I got it. But going back to World War II, the Victory models, and share a little story with you. They were still using the Victory models manufactured in World War II when I joined the military. I served in the Coast Guard 1987 through 1995, and Coast Guard was still using the World War II Victory revolvers, which was this revolver. They had smooth grips, and most of them were Parkerized finish on them, and they were made in World War II, and the Coast Guard was still using them. They weren't using them for. They were using them for their version of MPs and stuff. Were running around with them. We did have the 1911s when I first joined the Coast Guard, and after my first year or so, they transitioned over to the Beretta M9. It's based on a Model 92. So they saw quite a bit of service, those things. And my school of thought, I mentioned in other videos, if they were good enough back then they're good enough now. But, I mean, all the way back to the 1899 Philippine insurrection, they were using this revolver. And up until present day. I mean, when my father started on the NYPD, you had your choice. You could buy this revolver, or you could buy the Colt. That's all there was back then. Later on, for a couple of years, they offered the Ruger as a revolver, and then in 1994 they made the switch to semi-automatics, and that's when they got the Glocks and the Smith & Wessons and so forth. So if you see one of these around, see one in a pawn shop, pick it up, because these things are cool. And like I said, they shoot cheap ammunition all day long. Alright, this is Half S, and I'm out of here.